The theme song. It's the theme song. It's the theme song. Gotta get that cream corn. Yo, what's up, everybody? David Hem here. This is the Be Wealthy podcast, episode ocho. And this is going to be an exciting one. I am going to attempt to dissect the topic of God. God. Oh, man, this is going to be an interesting one. God. This topic here tends to create some disturbances, not within only me, but it seems to be something that when I talk to people about, or when it comes up, it tends to create some disturbances in their energetic fields. You know what I mean? It's a touchy subject. But why? Why is it a touchy subject, right? Why is it something that why does it bother people? I mean, from my understanding, when the idea of God was introduced to me, it was supposed to be about love. You know? And let's think about the word God. And why is it? It's a Western concept, right? You know what I mean? And it seems to be like a bad word nowadays. It seems like a dirty word. We could talk about gods. We could talk about a God, right? You know, like anything, right? I talk about this all the time on this podcast, is that whatever you feel, however you're feeling, you know, when a subject is presented to somebody, right? Whatever comes out of them is coming from inside of them. So if God, just saying the word God, brings up about a negative feeling, then there's an association that's deeply embedded inside of them that's creating this field, this projection of the word. I have my belief, is that, our parents, society, try to inundate us with an idea, and our parents is kind of the authority figure. And as we grow up and try to create our own identity, we rebel. And what's the ultimate authority figure but God? You know what I mean? And you think about, I don't know, for me, right, when I was in church, like looking up at things, and in the church, it's all about, like, if you disobey him, you're going to hell, or if you don't receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you're going to hell. And it's like this fear, and it's like, how dare you try to scare me, as if it wasn't already things I was scared of as a kid, right? Fucking debasement, that shit always scared the shit out of me. You know what I mean? It's funny because, when I think of God, this is personally, right? When I think of God, I think of love. And when you start to grow up and realize reality isn't what it seems, and all the laws and everything they taught you, that your parents try to teach you, or the school system try to tell you, you lose people. You see all the injustice in the world. You see all the children starving. You see all these images from, and babies dying, and like cancer, and kids, and like your mom dies, your parent dies, and you're like, there's no God. How can there even be something that would allow this? So, right, and then so we say, fuck God. And if that happens at an early age, and that constantly becomes exacerbated or fueled through more content that enforces that bias, right? Because when you start to go into that place of, yeah, fuck God and shit, right? Uh, you start to find things that support that claim. You know, you go up in the streets, right? You get bullied, you get picked on, you get beat up, and you start to see shit happen. You're not getting your way, right? Victim. You get fired from your job. You lose your girl. Your girl has an abortion. You know, your family member gets shot in the street. Because God's supposed to be all loving, right? And that becomes the mantra itself. That becomes the belief system. Because there's so much evil out there, right? Just for the sake of this discussion, we're going to say evil. There's bad out there. And so we go, oh, how can a God allow this? And then so we don't do any research, right? Because, well, we're kids. We don't have any tools. And, you know, you take into consideration of your brain still forming and all this good and all this stuff. And that just becomes the habit thought that God is bad. But then you start to, start to practice a little yoga, right? And you start to do some work on yourself, right? Because as you change inside, the idea of God changes along with it, right? Because if you're shitty about this concept, right, then God is going to be a shitty concept. Because God is a concept, right? At least in this feeble brain of mine, limited by the senses I currently have, my perception or my idea of God can only be a product of that, right? Because there's a lot of answers out there. I mean, there's a lot of questions for me out there. And there's not a lot of answers for me. You know what I'm saying? Google can't answer every question I have. And if you ever been to class with me, I always talk about that stuff that you can't see, right? Just because I can't speak it, because I don't have the words to talk about it. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean it's not there. Because I think about the breath, right? Air. Depending if it's a cold ass day, air itself I can't see, but I know it's there. And there it is, and just gave me life. Maybe God is the air. I don't know, something to think about. So anyway, I started to do my research, right? You know, ever since we can record anything, there's been a number of 8,000 to 12,000 gods. It's a whole lot of gods, right? It's a whole lot of people looking for meaning. And I think about religion, I think how much it is necessary, how necessary it was, and it still is for some, right? And I think how necessary it was for people back in the day, man. Back in the day when they discovered, the wheel, or like when they just started with the printing press, or how dark it was back in the days. You needed something to be like, yeah, this got to be something out there, right? And if the idea of God was never introduced to man or woman, what do we have to live up to? It was created for the human species to elevate. But call it genetic mutation, call it competition for resources. We started to get evil. And then within that evil, God itself, through the perception of the evildoer, became something dark. Yo, this crazy. There's a lot of religions out there, bro. A lot of religions. You know what I mean? So when you say the word God, right? And when you try to cross-pollinate it between cultures and shit, right? It gets lost in translation. You know what I mean? Because you want to say words have a words have a culture around them. God to me here in the West may mean something to someone else in Japan. You know, and it gets so complicated, right? When you try to talk to someone from a different part of the world and try to express what God is, right? But again, God is totally contingent upon the quality of the individual. And to me, God is everything. You know, I used to think God was this bearded man, right? Because that was the idea inundated inside of me, right? That will smite thee if I didn't obey. You know, so anyway, words have a culture around them, and words get a meaning out of that context, right? So to me, I think if I started to try to understand what God is for me, because that's where it comes down to, right? Your personal definition of it. Um, let's see. 8,000 to 12,000 gods, right? Crazy amount of gods. But let's talk about the popular gods, right? Or the popular religions. Uh, you have the Muslims, you have the Christians, you got the Hindus, you got the Buddhists, right? You got Judaism, like. But then it just gets all like, what happened? And maybe we don't need a God anymore, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it was necessary. And it still is necessary for some, right? There's some people that are in dark places, uh, in the middle of the country, somewhere in a impoverished place where that's all they have is their faith. And then you got privileged people, coming out of like distinguished colleges or um, high class, these scientists and stuff, and they say, no, 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 God isn't real. Because I think it's a privilege to even get the education to get to that place where you can be like, yeah, no, God doesn't exist. And you got people like me that's like, yeah, like, I need that. Now, my definition of God is different. I'm God. You God. You God. The air is God. The earth is God. The universe, I call it sometimes. I fucks with all of the gods. I'm a kind of a God whore. You know what I mean? I gets around. And there's a word for it. It's called an omnis. You know what I mean? The omnis is the recognition and respect to all religions. That's what I mess with, yo. I'm an omnis. An optimus omnis, yo. And it's yeah, I dig that, man. Let me see, look at this. All right. In Wikipedia, you know what I mean? So, omnism is a recognition and respect of all religions or lack thereof. Those who hold this belief are called omnis. Yeah. It's dope, man. Just respecting all religions and all gods. Key word is respecting and awe. And that's what happens. This is where, you have holy wars because there's no respect for other people's gods or others' beliefs, right? You got the Crusades, a lot of these popular religions right now is popular because of bloodshed. The Crusade, you know what I mean? It's like history is written by the winners. So when it comes down to it, I respect your God. I respect that you don't believe in a God. That's fine. As long as you're being kind and good and doing something to contribute, or just being a good person. Being a good person could be a religion, right? I worship. I don't even want to say worship, but I would pray. I would I respect to all the gods, right? There's a lot of gods out there, right? As I mentioned, 8,000, 12,000 gods, yo. Hindu has a bunch of gods that you could, shout out and give love to. I feel I'm a creation of a creator. I don't know, right? I don't know if there is one or not, right? This is where faith comes into place, trust comes into place. None of us know. Let's get that for sure. Like, look at this paper, right? Blank sheet of paper, right? And see that dot? Nothing, right? I'm gonna go again. And boom. Right? That smiley face is on a two-dimensional plane, right? That's about it. I'm in a three-dimensional plane, and I drew this on here. Okay? And this happy face, right? Hold on. Right? And he's saying peace. He's smiling. I created this. Yeah? But it's not going to really do much, no more than this. But maybe if I drew a whole bunch, it made like a flip book, right? It made him move. You know what I'm saying? This guy doesn't know that I created it, right? This is starting to get a little weird, right? It's the same thing with whatever it is in the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and so forth. I'm not supposed to know. I don't think I'm supposed to know what created me, or this world, or what created, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's a new concept for me, so I'm still trying to understand that as well, because, our ego, our arrogance has brought us such divide. We're in space and time. Maybe there's something that's outside of that. Maybe there's another concept or something that I just can't even, or even the most intelligent being can't even wrap their mind around. It was like in Dogma, right? The mere mention of God's true name, will destroy you. Because it's something that's out of the realm, right? And what happens to some people is that if they can't figure it out and we can't figure it out, we either say, fuck this shit, or we make up our own reasons and we stick to that. So how do we tell somebody that has strong convictions, strong rooted beliefs in something their entire life, and then you tell somebody, nah, you're wrong? That's just not the way to do it. It's arrogance. So my attempt here in this podcast is to get the message to respect all religions and no religions, to respect all gods, to respect yourself as a god. What would a god being do? I put that in little forms now. When they ask me, what's your gender? And they say other, they say, please clarify. I say supreme god being. And it's not like some ego, narcissist, arrogant thing. It's just I want to start to believe that. I want to believe that I'm more than a male, a female, right? Something greater. We don't have access yet to those higher planes of consciousness yet. Well, I don't. Not yet. But I'm knocking on the door. I'm tapping, I'm scraping at things and stuff. So pretty much in conclusion, the idea of God is based on you, right? And why people get all up in arms and arguments about it is because that's an expression of them. There's something else inside them. So when that creates this anguish within someone, there's a wound deeply inside that person, that being, when it's associated with the idea of God. So my antidote is update your definition of God. You don't believe in one at all. Believe in love. Love can be God. Maybe change the word God into something else. Maybe call it a boom shairu. A boom shairu. Make something up. Make a different word up, man. Because without that, right, it's like a missing piece to personal development, you know? It's just that extra oomph. It's just that extra tool to use. I say this in closing, right? When it comes to prayer, all prayer is a positive mental transaction you have with yourself. All prayer is convincing yourself of the good you deserve. You yourself is the monastery. You, your body, is the church. You yourself